Good morning and welcome back to the broadcast for Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Thursday, November 21st, 2019. And here are our top stories. She leads financial seminars for women empowerment and how to talk about money in your family. Female empowerment and financial literacy are two very hot topics of discussion these days. My next guest is a board member of She Leads, an organization focused on combining both of these concepts. Let's welcome back to the program Carrie Hannon. She's an author and columnist for New York Times and Market Watch, as well as a financial expert. Carrie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Jeff. Great to be here.
It's great to have you, and you know the weather's turning here in the Northeast. So what more to keep us warm than talking about finance and financial literacy? And you are on the board of She Leads, and I know they're planning some financial literacy seminars. Let's talk a little about She Leads. You want to tell us a little bit about the organization?
Actually, it's something that I put together with my partner, Nanette Blandon, from the Nexus Institute. And we started putting these together, the concept of it, about over a year ago. And we just launched, introduced them in the spring, and they started in the state of Georgia. The securities office there, the state securities office, really got behind us. And the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and they said, yes, we care about women and money. We want to be your pilot program. So we started in Atlanta in May with about 350 women, free event, financial education for women of all ages. And we had lots of diversity. It was fantastic. We rolled over to Tipton, Georgia, which is a smaller town, in September. Now we're going to Columbus, Georgia next week. And then next year on to Savannah and Augusta. And we're going to have these workshops. They're like day-long or part of a day workshops where we bring experts from their community. It's women talking to women within their community. I'll do a keynote and I'll moderate the panels. But we want it to be a grassroots local movement of women connecting with other women to learn about money. And so we're going to go to Albuquerque and Michigan. We've got some lined up, in Iowa. So we're moving across the country with these efforts to really bring hope and obviously some smarts to women about let's take this control here.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this. And we talked last week or several weeks ago with David Damson, who's the treasurer of Utah. They're doing some amazing things with financial literacy there and have been doing that with students. This is obviously groundbreaking, very important, that connectivity. And people like to learn, Carrie, from people that they can kind of relate to. And I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head, that have these little community events really bringing people together. And then when you leave and go on to the next event, they're meeting and talking to experts within their community. I mean, that just seems like logic to me.
It is, and it's so fun because even the financial pros in those communities that we might have a financial planner or something, or a wealth advisor on one of the panels, they tell their own personal stories. We focus on women entrepreneurs. Usually one of the panels might be just women, small business operators who have started their own businesses, because as we know, women are the fastest demographic starting their own businesses. So that's powerful, but it's really from the heart, people saying, hey, I screwed up. This is a mistake I made. This is what I learned from it. And we learn from each other's stories.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that in any market, any business, case studies are the most powerful tool that you can use, because it says, hey, I'm not alone. I'm going through the same thing that X, Y, and Z went through. And I'm sure that's powerful. I think that's really empowering for women. And I think that model, by the way, could be used for virtually anyone. I mean, I know that She Leads is focused on women financial empowerment, but really anyone, I would imagine, Carrie, young, mature, anywhere in the middle, male, female, could learn from other mentors.
Oh, without question. And I will have to put a plug in for my book. I have a book called Money Confidence that's really aimed at women, but specifically women who are managing money solo for the first time. And so that's one of the messages we get out, or I try to get out, is that, in fact, whether you're married or in a partnership or whatever, you should always manage your money as if you're living solo, because we're ultimately the only ones responsible for our financial future.
Yeah, I believe that too. I mean, I'm recently married within the last year, and we've had those conversations, but I think it's important that you partner with somebody if you're in a marriage, but obviously you have to take some self-responsibility. And unfortunately, you come in the world alone, and my belief is at least you go out alone, and you can have people around you and people help you, but you've got to take that level of responsibility for yourself and become empowered, because you can't rely on other people because unfortunately that's just the nature of life.
Right. And the numbers show that most women at the end of life, in their later decades are alone, whether they're widowed or divorced. That's just the way it is. And financially, they're not as well off as when you're in a partnership. So, and as you and I both know, marriage is the ultimate business relationship. So, you need to be equal partners in that relationship so that if you do face this period of time where you are managing your money solo, you're well equipped to do that. And the cool thing, Jeff, and I'm sure you know this as well from your work experience, is that women are phenomenal investors. Women are really great. It's just getting them to get started, and then they have all the qualities that make them great investors.
Absolutely. We talk on the show all the time with our colleague Devin Banerjee from LinkedIn about how there are studies where women have taken over the role of CFO or a senior level position, and the company has actually performed extremely well in those samples. So really important. And I would encourage people to check out what Carrie is doing and her colleague Nanette are doing. Carrie, how can people find out more and maybe bring this roadshow, for lack of a better term, to their city or the town?
Oh, I absolutely love that. Well, it's She Leads is our organization, but the best way is really to reach out to me directly, and Nanette and I have sort of the footprint in order that we can move this from state to state or community to community, because we've got this, really working now, a really neat format for it. And we'd love to talk to people. So the best way is to reach me at Carrie@carriehannon.com.
Absolutely. We'll put that right below in the graphics. Carrie, stick around. We're going to talk a little bit more about your recent New York Times article about sibling rivalry and finance. So stick around, Carrie, and you stick around as well right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network. Welcome back. Well, when working through estate planning for parents and grandparents, money can often be a sore subject and the cause of many disputes between siblings. Carrie Hannon, columnist, author, and personal finance expert, Carrie Hannon. Carrie, thanks so much for sticking around this morning.
Absolutely. Love being with you, Jeff. I
appreciate it. And hopefully it's warming, where everyone watching this is warming up if you're in the cold. So let's shift gears. And, I have a younger brother, and we get along extremely well. But you recently wrote a piece in the New York Times about sibling rivalry and what that could mean for financial matters. Why don't you take us through that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a piece, and I encourage everyone to look at it. It was in last week. It's up online now. So it's all about, how to talk about money and kids and money. And I think it's really, really important to remember that, family money, particularly if there's an inheritance involved, can get really tricky. Even if you're great friends with your siblings, when money comes into the conversation, it can get there's a very delicate balance because, they remember that, dad went to your softball game and he didn't come to mine, or whatever it is that sort of lurks beneath the surface. And so we need to have these conversations, whether it's trying to manage a family foundation, or if you're inherited some money, that there's not a sense of favoritism there. But it can even be, Jeff, simple things like your aging parent had to go to an assisted care, and they didn't have enough saved, and one sibling is actually paying for some of that that coverage for them, and the other doesn't have the resources to do that, and there's a sense of tension. You need to have these conversations, bring it out in the open, because you don't know what's going on in the other's head, and the most important thing is our relationship with our siblings is the longest one of our entire life, so we want to keep it on good ground.
Yeah, you make good points. And, the estate planning process, it really isn't generic. You can't just go out and create an estate plan. You really have to think it through. And I know in my own family, talking with my parents, they have shared some of their wishes in terms of their estates and what they want to do. And I think that's really, with both my brother and I think that conversation is obviously important. But you can't just have a generic template for doing estate planning. It really is individual and based on the family.
It is, and you often need a mediator of some sort. You want to bring in a financial advisor who can just sort of moderate the conversation so that it doesn't this can be very emotional. If one child is picked to be the executor of the estate, well, my gosh, why him? He cheated at Monopoly. You just have to really, there's sibling rivalry that goes on, or, one kid went to private school and the other one went to public school, and they're like, wait, this isn't fair. I should be getting more at the end of the day than my brother who went to private schools his whole life. So, or you pay for his medical school or her law school. So there are these tensions that when you're talking about divvying up, and, or even parents might want to say, what is their intentions? How might they want some of their the money that they're passing along to be used for the better good? And sometimes that's something that siblings can really jump on board of and support each other on, let's do good works with this money. But you need to have those conversations. And one wealth advisor, I'll just say quickly, that I interviewed for the piece, he talked about how the money is like a football that's being thrown down to a receiver on the field, but the receiver isn't even told it's coming. So they don't even know how to expect it, because a lot of advisors tell parents, don't talk to your kids about this right now, and so it's a secret.
Yeah, I would caution folks, and we tend to look backwards with rose-colored glasses, and we remember certain things but not other things. And looking back on my own life, I think my parents treated us extremely fair and evenly. And Carrie, what about just splitting things up equal? If you have three siblings, 33 1/3. If you have another sibling, 50% each. Does that make sense? It seems to make sense to me, but
Deal, but what if one child has special needs, or
True.
one has had healthcare issues of some sort, or there might, if one child is very successful financially, really suited well, another one really hasn't had that kind of career. Maybe they've gone into a field that isn't quite as lucrative. So there are some deep-seated questions, and maybe the one doesn't want it to be equal. Maybe they want it to be fair.
Yeah, well, and that that definition of fair differs from person to person. As we all know, you just go out there and talk to people. What is fair? No, but I think you make some great points, and I did leave out. We have previously interviewed folks about special needs. That's a increasingly growing aspect of diagnoses today, where children today are being diagnosed at a more frequent rate about that. So that's obviously very important. But Carrie, obviously you bring up some very important topics, and I love the She Leads conversation, and I really think this kind of dovetails nicely into what you're talking about with She Leads, which is personal empowerment, female empowerment, and taking control. Because in my mindset is, okay, I can't rely on Social Security. I can't rely on anyone but myself to take care of myself, including what I could or should inherit from my parents. And so I've always focused myself on that. But I think it dovetails nicely, this conversation, into what you're talking to with the women in Georgia.
Well, great. Thank you. I appreciate the time to talk about it, because those are issues that are near and dear to my heart. But back to just briefly about the inheritance issue, is sometimes parents don't want to let kids know what's coming because they don't want them to feel entitled or somehow change their life course because they know they have something coming. And so there's this sense of not wanting your child to feel entitled in some way or not achieve their full potential. So you can see the dilemma on a parent's point of view of having this kind of conversation with their kids.
Yeah, well, folks should definitely check out Carrie's article in the New York Times, and we'll post it below the fold in the Morning Pulse. Carrie, always a pleasure talking with you. Stay warm in that D.C. weather, and we'll talk to you soon, very soon, right here on BRN AM.
Excellent. Take good care, Jeff.
Bye. And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you found it educational as well. Hey, have a financial topic or someone of interest that you think we should interview? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, healthcare, and more, check out today's edition of The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Waiting here for you to take and drink of. But if you're tired of the same